Welcome everybody. It's Debbie O'Neill of Scribing Quick Designs, and today's project that I want to share with you is this really fun paper layered mandala. I've created an SVG file for this. This is a layered Easter egg mandala, and you can find the SVG file in the description of this video and be able to download that to your computer, then upload it into Design Space. If you don't know how to do that, I'll also link up my short tutorial on how to do that process if it's new to you. If you have it downloaded on your computer and you upload into Design Space, then you're going to be able to cut this out. Now, today's project, I'm going to show you how I work with this particular mandala, but you can use the tips and tricks that I'm going to share with you on any other papercraft mandala project that you may be working on. I get asked all the time, what adhesives do I use? What setting do I use in Design Space? What else do I think is helpful when working with the mandala? So that's what the tutorial is about today. So let's get started. We're going to cover what materials you will need to make this. Okay, to make the egg mandala project, you're going to need the following materials. So you will need to have some type of a scraper tool. I recommend the large Cricut scraper if you have that, or any scraper will be fine. Also, you'll need a pair of scissors, a little bit of adhesive foam tape will be good for the putting it together, and the Zig two-way glue pen is what I recommend to put the layers together. And I always use whatever tool I use for weeding will help you when you go to pick out the pieces when we're working with our shape. Okay, so you want to have that. You will need 5 pieces of cardstock in whatever colors you prefer. You'll want 1 piece that's going to be your background color, and then you'll have 4. These are going to be the more intricate shapes, and then this one will be your top layer. So I'm using purple, teal, green, yellow, and pink for mine. I just think of those as bright, happy, cheerful colors for Easter, so that's what I'm using. And I recommend you use a light grip Cricut mat, but a one that's sticky, because you want to make sure you get good adhesion. And you can also use a brayer if you have one, or use the scraping tool, and I'll show you later how I make sure that my paper is aligned, and I've got plenty of tips for you on how to get the best cuts. So let's get started. Tip I have for you is that once you put your cardstock on your Cricut mat, make sure you've got, I'm using a light grip mat, but it's got a lot of stickiness to it, but I also use a brayer, and I actually go across the entire thing and make sure that it is all pressed down. Make sure it is completely on here, because this egg shape has a lot of intricate cutting on it, and that way there's no little part of your cardstock that's going to lift up if you make sure you put it on. If you don't have a brayer, use your scraper tool and do this and just scrape across it, okay? And that'll also make sure you don't have any air pockets or anything underneath your cardstock, and it'll make your cuts better, and you're not going to have your cardstock sliding around on you while it's doing all that cutting. Tip that I have for you when you're working with the mandala shapes, look how intricate the cuts are. If it's got a lot of little tiny pieces on it, just like on this egg shape that I'm providing, you want to change your setting. So normally I would pick a medium cardstock setting, because that I'm using close to my heart cardstock. It's a nice weight of cardstock, but also for like the Recollections cardstock, any of the regular cardstock you might be cutting this out of, you want to change that setting to intricate. So let me show you how to do that. So I'm going to go over here where it says Browse All Materials. If you are on a Cricut Explore Air machine, change it to custom setting on your dial, so then it gives you this, this view of the different settings. So I'm going to go to Browse, and up here in the search bar, I'm going to type in intricate. Now it's going to give you an intricate, it says cardstock for intricate cuts. This is what you want to set your machine on to be able to, it basically kind of slows down the cutting just slightly, so that it is giving you a better, more precision cut when you've got all these little tiny pieces. So I highly recommend that you do that to get the best results, and it's not tearing your paper as much. Okay, now once you have your cut done, what I want you to do is take your mat and flip it over. But before you do that, I have a trick for you. This is just the cover from my Cricut mat, and I'm going to put that down first on top of my craft mat, and then I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to peel away the outside. Okay, so we don't need that part. But as I flip this over and I start to gently roll this and peel off the cardstock from the mat, okay, I'm not trying to go too fast because it's very intricate. But now I've got all those little pieces are now on top of that plastic mat, and it's going to make it so much easier to clean this up. Now, then I'll take my hook tool, whatever you use for your weeding tool, or if you have a paper piercer or anything like that, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to punch out anything that isn't quite just falling off naturally. Okay, and so you'll just go through, and where those little tiny holes are, I just poke this through there. It'll take you a few seconds, but once you've done that, then and you've got your piece ready, then what I want you to do is then take the cutout part that's still stuck on your mat and use your tool, your scraper tool, and scrape this onto your plastic mat. Okay, so once you do that, I like this extra large Cricut scraper tool because when I'm doing projects like this, it makes it so much faster. Okay, so once I've got that all off the mat, now here's the beauty of this. I don't have all these pieces all over my craft desk that I'm trying to track. I've got it all on one piece. I can fold this and just shove it right into my trash can, and I'm good to go. Okay, so after I put it in the trash can, then if I have any pieces left behind, I just use a lint roller and roll right across this to get all those little pieces off so they're not going to transfer to my mat. So I wanted to show you that. It makes it easier when you're working on really intricate cuts like this. Okay, now once you have everything cut out and you have weeded all the pieces and make sure that your pieces are fine, then you want to make sure that you set these up so that they are in the right order before you start to adhere them. So you will have a background layer, then you're going to have whatever you chose for the next layer, third layer, fourth layer, and the top layer. You will have 5 pieces total, and one of them is the top layer here, and it's going to go on top of the second layer. It's going to go like this, okay? And then you'll have the next layer and the next layer after that. Now, because this is very intricate, I am not going to be stacking these with adhesive foam between the layers, but I am going to raise it above the background layer, which is the solid piece, okay? And then we will use some foam tape to lift it up off of that, and you'll still get a really beautiful effect by doing it this way. It's just these lines are so thin on this, trying to pop dot all of the layers on top of each other where you might do it with some mandalas. But for this one, we're going to do it a little bit differently. So I want to go ahead, once you have it and you've got it lined up, so make sure whatever colors you use, when you stack them together, you can see that they fit. We're going to start with the top 2 layers. Okay, now flip this one over once you've got it lined up so you know that it's the correct way from when you took it off your mat. Flip it over, and we're going to add some glue to the back of this. I'm using a Zigway 2 glue pen. That is what I prefer to do. So we're going to do this, and I'm just going to add dots all along on here because we want this to stick down really well on top of our second layer. Now you can try to use a tape runner if you want, but be very gentle if you do that because you don't want to tear this piece. So that's why I prefer to use the liquid glue pen. It works great when you're layering. I use this a lot when I'm layering pieces. And you can pick these up at any of the craft stores. And I'll link it up in the description of the video too. in case you haven't used one of these. Some of y'all are new to paper crafting. Okay, so once you get it on there, you're just going to flip it over and you're going to lay it on top of your second layer. And I like to start at the top and line up the edge and then go all the way around until I've got it on here perfectly, and then press it down. Okay, so now we've got the first two layers adhered. I'm going to do the same thing, but now I'm going to glue this on top of the second layer. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing where I'm going to add glue around the top of the third layer here, now that we're working on the third layer. And it just takes a few seconds. I'm going to add, make sure you get around the circle here in the center. And I'm going to add some here to the center of this. And just kind of dot it. Let's make sure we get all the way around. The outside edge. And we'll do a few of the pieces here in the middle. Okay, you just want to make sure that it's sticking together. The great thing about the liquid glue is that it gives you a little bit of time to move it around when you go to put your layer on. Okay, so now I'm going to flip this over. There again, I like to kind of start at the top and make sure I've got it lined up, and then I'll go around the edges. And then just press that down like so, sticking those together. And then you have your fourth layer. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to add the glue. So now we're going to add the first, second, and third layers now on top of the fourth layer. There again, starting at the top and working my way around the sides, get it lined up, and then press it down. Okay, so now we've got those 4 layers. That looks beautiful just the way it is, right? But I want to add it to the background. Now on the background, instead of gluing, you could glue this down flat if you want, but I want to raise it up just a little bit. So it'll just add a little more dimension to it. So either you can continue to glue, or you can get some foam dots, some foam tape, and I'm going to add some strategically around the circle to help hold it up. A few of these around to help keep this lifted up. And you just want to be placing your foam tape where you're not going to see it. Before I take the backing off of this, I'm going to set it on top of this to see if that's going to give me enough support. And it looks like it will. Okay, so now I'm just going to take this off, and then I'll go in and I'll take all the liners off. So now we're ready just to line it up. There again, I like to kind of start at the top and get it lined up, and then just gently press where you applied the foam tape. And now we have our finished layered egg. Isn't that beautiful? It's so fun. And now you can take this and you can even just display it sitting up on a little stand if you like, or you can add it to a shadow box or put it on a canvas, whatever you want to do with it. But it's just so pretty and fun to have to decorate for the season. Hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you so much. File for this is in the description of the video. If you would like to make this for yourself, I've created an SVG file to share with you. Please come join us in the Let's Learn Cricut Design Space Facebook group for more information about working with your Cricut machines and having fun creating projects.